Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to my presentation of personal prosthetics, prosthetic stylization for you, by you. Before we get started, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Form 5. I participated in their spring CoFab, where we designed an assistive device for Tatum, an adorable 7-year-old with a nerve injury that prevented him from being able to use his left arm. Even after the workshop, they have been instrumental in providing resources and education about the prosthetics industry for my project. Now, without further ado, I'd like to tell you about Sarah. Sarah is a 30-year-old single woman with an upper limb amputation below the elbow. She loves being outdoors and hanging out with her girlfriends. She prides herself on her sense of style. Most afternoons, she goes for a walk for exercise, leaving her prosthetic at home since it was not exercise friendly. And it was on one of those walks that she was passing through a park and looked over to see something glorious. It was the most beautiful prosthetic that she had ever seen. When she asked the girl about it, the girl said that while the upper half of her prosthetic was a permanent wrap on the surface of the prosthetic, the lower half was a prosthetic cover that she had purchased. As Sarah walked home, she could not stop thinking about how awesome the girl's leg had looked. When she got home that day, she set her prosthetic on the kitchen table and stared at it. The prosthetic she'd gotten was one of the good ones, and it fit her well. It did what she needed it to and wasn't too uncomfortable to wear, and it was durable. She had no complaints about the prosthetic itself. But the appearance was lackluster, depressing. It was just flesh-toned plastic with a metal hook on the end, boring and uninspiring. It was time for a change. She sat down at her computer and began to research, feeling more excited by the second. There had to be something like what the girl had, but for upper limb prosthetics instead. Ideally, she could even get more than one so that she could be able to wear it for multiple different types of occasions, provided that it wasn't too expensive, of course. She found many different companies that sold covers for prosthetics. Among all of those options, there were only two that looked like they might have something for an upper limb amputee. This was fine. She'd been expecting some slim pickings. If there were a plethora of options, she'd have heard of them by now, and she'd own one. Determined, she clicked on the first option. The alternative limb project looked promising, but as she looked a bit closer, it proved to not be what she wanted. The designer wasn't designing prosthetic covers like the other companies were doing for legs. She was designing pieces of art. Now, this was all very interesting, but unfortunately not what she was looking for. Without any upfront pricing, she couldn't even begin to imagine how she could budget for something so bespoke and obviously expensive. Open Bionics proved to be another dead end. They did not sell just prosthetic covers by themselves. The only covers they offered were specifically designed for the hero arm they produced, and her insurance company had already said that the electric prosthetic was not medically necessary, and therefore would not be covered. Her budget could not accommodate her desires. For those of you who have all your limbs, I'm sure that you're unaware of how stupid expensive being an amputee is. It is a constant uphill battle to get insurance to cover your assistive devices, and many insurances will only cover expenses of up to a certain dollar amount per year, and some will only cover a certain amount in the amputee's lifetime. Many, like Sarah's insurance, refuse to cover things that they don't deem medically necessary, like the cool myoelectric prosthetics that Hero Arms are advertising. Not willing to give up just yet, Sarah looked to see if there were any other companies that did something similar that she could maybe adapt for herself. Unfortunately, money was an issue once again. Her insurance company was definitely not going to give her an extra $600 for a couple of prosthetic covers that weren't even designed for her type of limb difference. If she wanted something like what the girl at the park had, she would have to do it herself, something she had neither the skills nor time for. But what if there was a product that fit her needs? And not just her needs, but the needs of the many people like her. People who want to be able to express themselves and look cool while doing it. What would this product look like? And what would it need to do? The solution would need to give users control over their appearance, be assembled with one hand, have versatility across many different types of prosthetics, be lightweight, affordable, and look awesome. Before we dive in, I'm going to walk you guys through what we're going to talk about real quick. First, I will discuss the foundations of this project, which include the prosthetics I'm designing for, the system concept for how I would solve the problem, and the final design for the base of my product. Then I will talk about the part of the project where I spent the bulk of my time, the aesthetic design of the cover. Next, I will talk about the way I put the two halves of the project together and how I'm going to work to make my product accessible for everyone. Finally, we'll get to see the design and you get to see why I say that it's designed for the customer by the customer. Now, I didn't have access to a physical prosthetic for the majority of my early design work, but the research I did revealed that there were many different obstacles to design around on a prosthetic arm. There are multiple types of prosthetics out there. Some move electronically, some move with the assistance of your body, and some don't move at all. There are many challenges associated with trying to design a platform that would work for multiple different types of limb prostheses. Anything I designed would need to be able to be flexible, customizable, and something that could fit around all of the exterior bits of the prosthetic. This brought me to my next important question. How am I supposed to attach my cover to the prosthetic without interfering with its functionality? It was from this brainstorming that I came up with a two-piece system. A base layer that would fit itself to the prosthetic and provide contact points for the cover, and a cover that would provide the aesthetics that the user wanted. Basically, I needed to design something like plate armor. But plate armor is both heavy and expensive because it is made of metal. Remember that whatever I design needs to be lightweight and affordable. I settled on 3D printing my base layer, since it is both cost-effective and lightweight. The trick lay in designing a base layer that could be 3D printed but still have flexibility. My first thoughts were of 3D printed chainmail and maybe switching to foam, but what I settled on was more efficient: 3D printing directly onto fabric. 3D printing onto fabric is easy, cost-effective, and creates a sheet of material that is both durable and strong. For the plates, I had two ideas for materials that might suit my needs. Resin is lightweight and durable, but it can be expensive if you want to do anything super fancy, and difficult to work with since you need the right environment and molds to pour it into. 3D printed PLA filament, on the other hand, is significantly less expensive overall. The drawback is that it is not heat safe, since the whole point of the filament is that it gets soft in heat. My plan is to offer both materials to customers at slightly different price points, since every user is going to have different needs for what they want to do with their prosthetic cover. With the foundation for my project laid, I dug into the part of the project that I had been most excited for: the aesthetics. Now, from the beginning of my project, I had two aesthetics in mind. Cyberpunk as an aesthetic is perfect for the type of cover I am trying to create. With its clean lines, inherent modularity, and bright, flashy colors, it is an excellent option for people that want to stand out in a crowd. My second aesthetic was harder to pin down, but the effort was well worth it. For people who are looking for a more down-to-earth and less futuristic look, fantasy is an elegant and organic solution for making their dreams come true. Having chosen my aesthetics, I then approached the daunting task of creating a map that would wrap seamlessly around a prosthetic arm while also being flexible for different arm shapes and sizes. I wanted the map to be segmented so that a user could easily remove specific plates and replace them with plates with different textures or colors as they wanted, providing them with full customizability and control. As I moved between 2D and 3D, I used a 3D model to help me figure out how they would line up seamlessly when they wrapped around an arm. Unfortunately, once I reached CAD, my designs came out to have approximately 80 to 90 individual plates. This was way more than most users would have time or energy to deal with on a daily basis. So I took those individual plates and connected them together with back plates. This process cut down the final number of plates to roughly 18 per set. After designing the two halves of the prosthetic cover, I finally got to put them together. I opted for a system using snaps to secure my product in place. The plates can be removed and exchanged for other colors and styles simply by snapping them on or off of the base layer, which is secured to the prosthetic itself by more metal snaps. My final prototype was tested with the help of Form 5, who provided me with prosthetic arms and space for testing. During my tests, I discovered that my initial idea of using typical metal snaps to secure the plates was not a viable one for one-handed assembly. The connection points were too difficult to secure, so I came up with a new solution. Magnet snaps. Magnet snaps will attract the plate to its designated spot and will still prevent the plate from shifting when you bump into something. More importantly, they can be easily attached with one hand. It was also during this session that I proposed a preliminary system of sizing, because no one, and I really do mean no one, has the exact same arm as someone else. People come in all different shapes and sizes. Fortunately for us, the clothing industry has been accommodating this simple truth since the Industrial Revolution. My solution is to use a similar system as to what is used for men's pant sizing, which uses a waist to inseam ratio. Instead of the two measurements, I would use three: the top diameter, the bottom diameter, and the length, and would provide plate sizes accordingly. This step of the process was unfortunately outside of the scope of my project and will require further development to be completely usable. Similarly, I have a concept for making more tailored changes that people could make at home using spacers between the plates and the base layer, adding depth and a little bit of girth to the prosthetic. This too is outside the immediate scope of my project, but it is important for my goal of eventually providing a personal prosthetic cover for anyone who needs one regardless of what they look like. And now, the final part of the project that we've all been waiting to see, the final design. Just to recap, I'm going to show you my final designs, show you different color options that people could purchase directly, and then we'll talk about my future goals. Finally, we'll take a look at how I met Sarah's needs. Here is my cyberpunk design. For this design, I made sets for both above and below the elbow. I incorporated the clean lines and clear angles from the cyberpunk aesthetic, creating a dynamic set of plates that will help users make a statement wherever they go. As I mentioned earlier, there are 18 plates in each set. As you can see, there are options for changing the color of the base hexagons as well as changing the color of the individual plate segments. And here is my fantasy design. I went for a more maximalist approach to this one, drawing inspiration from the Art Deco and Art Nouveau art movements in my designs, while also incorporating elements from medieval scrollwork. To incorporate the magical elements of the fantasy aesthetic, I also added little swirls and stars to give that mystical vibe. This was the hardest set to design, so at the moment, I only have a set for below the elbow. I will, however, be designing one for above the elbow as I take this further into development. As you can see, there are many off-the-shelf color options for users. I wanted users to have the flexibility to make what they wanted of the covers I design, and one of the ways I do that is by providing them with many different color choices that they can choose from. There are options for the individual plates to be made from different colors and types of PLA or resin, and the individual segments on a plate can be made from different materials as well. Even with all this customization, the work on the user's end is still easy, as they only have to choose their designs online, order the plates, and put them on the prosthetic. Because of the materials we're using, they should be able to easily buy two covers for a third of the cost of the cheapest covers on the market for lower limb prosthetics. Let's take a look at a cyberpunk resin plate set for the forearm. As you can see, I used materials to simulate wood and marble to create a more stately and elegant aesthetic instead of a loud, vibrant design like some of the ones you saw a few slides back. This was because one of Sarah's desires was for multiple sets of plates, with the reason being that she wants more than one that she can wear for different types of events. This way she can wear a nice, elegant design instead of a bubblegum pink design to her next business meeting. My system allows users to design their covers for what they need and then wear them when they need them. But my goal was accessibility. And one of the ways to ensure that my system remains accessible is to put it in the hands of the people. I plan to sell the CAD files for the plates as well as a resin mold set so that people can design and manufacture their own plates at home. This creates options for making textured plates out of all sorts of materials, opening the doors to endless innovation. My product is the perfect product for Sarah's needs and the needs of the many people like her. Personal prosthetics give users control over their appearance, are able to be assembled with one hand, are versatile, lightweight, affordable, and look awesome. Personal prosthetics is a game changer in the prosthetics market because it not only provides an option where there was previously none, but it is the start of so much more for people with limb differences. It changes the way people look at upper limb prosthetics, improving people's lives and giving them the power to choose their own futures. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation on personal prosthetics. If you have any questions or would like to reach out, feel free to message me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email.